Can we just take a moment to realize, before we get into the racism and all the other crazy shit that the Democrats are pushing right now, can we just take a moment to just really look at that picture of Joe Biden and realize how much he is starting to look like Jeff Dunham's puppet Walter? Like, the resemblance is uncanny at this point, and I know that this picture is probably tailored exactly to make him look as unflattering as possible, but after years of weird angles of Trump, I think we got to point out the very obvious comparison in the room there. So now we can get into the racism, because if you've taken a look at what Joe Biden has said in the past, what he can't remember, and what he said recently, which you'd hope he'd be able to remember because he's going to become the 46th president of the United States, it should make us all take a pause, because what he's proposing to do, or what his handlers are telling him that he's proposing to do, is not very good, especially with an economy in such a precarious position as it is right now, that he's going to be, well, as Town Hall puts it, Biden pushes idea of discriminating based on race and sex in stimulus plan. Now, they also aren't telling you in the mainstream media about this, and for good reason. For good reason, because, well, actually, I shouldn't say for good reason, for an obvious reason, because the group that Biden's discriminating against is, I won't reveal the surprise, but it's going to be very obvious to anyone. In detailing his plan for a multi-trillion-dollar relief package, where are you getting all of that money, Joe? Oh, right, it's all of those government jobs that you're creating with your amazing economic plan that we've gone over before, and definitely doesn't look like a fucking big old shell game at the end of the day where everybody's just going to end up working for the government, and you're going to be raising corporate tax rates, which are going to make the companies that are in a tough spot to begin with just flock outside of the country. But no, don't worry, don't look for the man behind the curtain. There's trillions of dollars there over many, many, many years where your great grandkids are going to be paying off that debt. Anyways, to address the COVID-19 pandemic and keep the economy afloat. Very, very, very funny. Very funny. He's not going to keep it afloat for 4 years. Christ. He can barely keep all of his hair plugs pounded into his skull for that long. President-elect Joe Biden said he would prioritize everyone except for, drumroll please, white men. Yeah, no kidding. Our focus will be on the small businesses on Main Street that aren't wealthy and well-connected and that have been facing real economic hardships through no faults of their own. Okay, I like that, but I just wish that his statement would have stopped right there, because that would have been fine. But then, of course, he has to continue on. Our priority will be Black, Latino, Asian, and Native American. You're missing something there. And women-owned businesses. No, you're still missing something there. What about Middle Easterners? God damn it, Joe. We know you like to kill them by sending everybody's kids off to war, but you gotta include them in your equity process. Unless you're talking about Asians, and you're just really dumb, perhaps. Finally, having equal access to the resources they needed to reopen and rebuild. What is this, 1921? Like, is this where we're at? Everybody is still under subjugation? I understand that was when you first took public office, but we still aren't living in those times. Things have been kind of ironed out perfectly. Now, to be fair, this is a huge statement, okay? Not for the fact that he missed a giant swath of the population who actually owns all of the small businesses, because we can take a look at that, and everybody, like, the rest of this article just kind of details how everybody's like, this is kind of stupid, and you have discrimination laws on the books that kind of prohibit forgetting certain sectors and the largest tax base in the entire country. But no, it's Joe Biden and progress and equity and whatever his friends like. But we've got the percentages. We have the documents from the Chamber of Commerce here. So women and minorities in business statistics. What percentage of small businesses in the United States are women owned? Women own 11.6 million small businesses in the United States. Overall, this is 38.7% of small businesses in the United States. Together, these businesses employ 9 million people. Not an insignificant amount, but at the same time, 39%, if we round up a little bit, is not 100%. That is stupid. And you even look a little bit further down there, 8 million small businesses in the United States are minority owned, accounting for a little better than a quarter of all small businesses. So just doing a little bit of rough math, that roughly is about 2/3 of businesses. there's still another third out there that would desperately like some fucking startup money, considering you and your friends were the ones who shut everything down. Not Joe Biden explicitly. He's only been in public life for 47 years, and he wasn't holding office at the time that all the shutdowns were there, but he was the one on the fence, off the fence, telling people to shut down and saying that the likes of Gretchen Whitmer, Andrew Cuomo, Gavin Newsom were doing a terrific job by locking everything down, even though they haven't really solved anything. But no, he caused this financial collapse and will continue to cause it by locking everything down. But by starting off your first 100 days by only promising to pay out, 65, I think, 0.2% of small businesses with your multi-trillion-dollar stimulus package for small businesses. Perhaps that's all the money you can afford, because it is a lot of money, but I guess you'll start your first term in the Oval Office the same way that you started it in the Senate, by being a discriminated bigot. But of course, you aren't alone, and we got to talk about the unhinged rant that AOC went on last night on her Instagram page. Normally, I wouldn't promote anything that she says, because I think that she is a dangerous idiot, and much like CNN, MSNBC, and their commentators, I think by amplifying their message, you're doing more harm than actual good. If you just let them kind of wither away in the corner, that would be totally fine. But since she's going to have the ear of the incoming president, if not her directly, everybody in her little jihadist cabal are going to have significant sway when even Nancy Pelosi finally fucking retires. But who knows? She'll be just like John McCain, Nancy Pelosi, I'm talking right now. And she'll die in office. I don't wish for her to die in office. I'm just thinking that's how things are going to play out. John McCain had an inoperable brain tumor and held up a Senate seat for fucking 2 additional years because he wouldn't retire out of spite. But he's a maverick and a renegade. Fucking blow me. Speaking of people who can blow me, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez to GOP colleagues, white supremacists will never win. Oh yes. Can you point them out? Because I can point to one who eulogized a high-ranking Klansman, and he's going to be your boss very shortly. Anyways, Ocasio-Chavez went after her GOP colleagues during an Instagram Live on Tuesday evening and expressed outrage over Capitol rioters bringing the Confederate flag inside the Capitol. Oh my eyes, things that you've never seen before, and probably didn't even see at the time, and probably just seen it in a meme, you idiot. Telling GOP members that white supremacists will never win again, and suggesting they resign if they disagree. I will not engage my political adversaries. I will merely crush them. To some of my colleagues who clearly need the reminder the Confederacy were traitors and Democrats, to our Confederacy and white supremacists will never win. Project more, shall we? Ocasio-Chavez said in a Wednesday tweet, retweeting a clip of her Instagram Live the night before, "Oh, but there was more. If any of you has trouble with that, maybe you should resign because you're not ready to run an ant farm, let alone serve in Congress." It's nice that she invoked the only animal with a smaller brain than she does possess. During the video, Ocasio, nice tits, talked about how those who breached the U.S. Capitol flew the Confederate flag for the first time in American history at the U.S. Capitol. Oh my stars. Why don't you ask your white boyfriend or husband, I'm not too sure, to provide you with a new necklace if you're so enraged, something to clasp onto. Then you can ask him to lick it up afterwards. It didn't even make it in during the Civil War, and there were members cheering them on. Don't get it twisted, she said. That's funny that she's telling people not to get things twisted. She can barely keep her own thoughts straight. You had a member of Congress from Colorado. This would be Lauren Boebert, by the way, saying my people were outside. They flew the Confederate flag, all of them at the same time. All I see is white supremacists. They're everywhere. What an idiot. When it didn't even make it in during the Civil War and they said, those are my people, whatever. She may or may not be over-exaggerating at this point. In case you can't tell, every member of Congress who voted to overturn the Russells of our free and fair, again, a generous assessment, election to overturn the results of our election. If any member of Congress so much as stutters to say that the Confederacy were traitors to the United States. Yes, I do agree that Democrats are traitors to the United States, but the Confederacy is a legion of white supremacists. If you so much as stutter to say that, turn in your pin and get out. Go join them. What? Why don't you go join them if you're so sympathetic to them? We are above them. Do not ask us to dirty ourselves with mingling with the plebs out there. But you have no place in the capital of the United States of America, in a citadel of democracy, if that's the trash you believe in. Just openly calling people trash. God, she's funny. Ocasio-Cortez's language falls in line with that of fellow squad member who assessed that the GOP lawmakers took part in what she described as a racist attempt to overturn this election. There is more about trying to disenfranchise the voters of the black, brown, indigenous. Yes, your cabal of fucking people you're trying to brainwash, but as you've seen in the general election, more people turned out to vote for President Trump who were a part of a roll call of subordinates than have since Nixon, I think. Nixon or Eisenhower. Like, it's been forever. But don't let facts get in the way of your little story. Her entire rant that she went on last night was very genocidal in its rhetoric, if I may be so bold. She was referring to people as filth and trash, stuff that one Adolf Hitler loved to engage in when he was describing a certain type of the population. I think you can probably figure out who he was referring to. And the words of AOC, Cori Bush, all of the other members of the squad, and even Joe Biden himself, excluding white people, not out of ignorance, but on purpose, is along those same lines. So every time that you hear Democrats talk about how, oh, we're so against fascism and you're just acting just like Hitler, please remind them of their own rhetoric, because stuff like this is actually dangerous. Not right now. I wouldn't say that any of this is inciting violence. You can just look past through some of their old Twitter feeds and you can take a look at what was happening over the summer and how they were encouraging it on every single one of them, if you want actual calls to violence. But like I was saying, these aren't direct calls. This is just dangerous rhetoric that will eventually build into something like straight white men being cut out of much needed stimulus for, and I will quote Joe Biden on this one, facing real economic hardships through no fault of their own. This next 4 years is going to be a fucking trip, guys, and I look forward to parsing through all of the terrible information and hopefully making you laugh a little bit. But yeah, we got to talk about the update when it comes to Parler. I know I've been pushing off the Capitol Hill aftermath stuff, but things just keep rolling in, and it'd be impossible to keep up to date on a video. If I was to do another data drop at this point, I'd be saying, okay, so this stuff doesn't make sense, this stuff doesn't make sense. But Parler's up next because it's going to be hitting the laws courts here very shortly, and Amazon's fired back, and then Parler's fired back on that firing back, and there's a lot of fire, lots of fire. I thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.